Gentlemen, we're back from Christmas and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Woo!
Still
Hey,
How was your Christmas, guys?
fun.
not
Yeah.
too bad. How was yours?
It's good. Any special gifts from Santa?
No,
No,
nothing special.
Adam?
A lot, and I mean a lot of After Eights. One of my favorite chocolates, and a lot of socks. So that's always good. Also, the grandparents got the family this I forget what you would call it, but it's like this kind of grill thing. And obviously, we do a lot of being an English household. My mom always does like the British fry-ups, sausages, eggs, all that kind of stuff.
Big breakfast?
Big breakfast. So it was. It's been used a few times already. That's a godsend, honestly. It's great.
I remember I asked somebody this. This is super random. But I remember someone said there's very specific big breakfasts. There's the ones in England.
Yeah.
And then there's the ones in Ireland. I can't remember which one has the soda bread and which one has the beans.
I'm pretty sure you'd find beans in the British one. The soda bread can just leave, and the only real big breakfast is the English one. You can forget about anywhere else, to be honest. I don't know. You probably have Scotch egg for the other one too, but that just doesn't. More of a soft boiled egg guy myself. But well, anyway, New Year's is coming up too, so that'll be New Year's. I can't wait for everyone to make the joke of, oh my God, 2021 was bad. How about 2022? It's weird. The pandemic itself has felt like a decade, but 2021 felt like it went by in a flash. Same with 2020. I don't know if it's just me.
No, you're right. I saw the photo of Bernie Sanders sitting, I think it was at the presidential inauguration in early in 2021, I think around January. And someone goes, that was 11 months ago.
It's weird to think that it was that thingy ago. Like it's weird to think like we had Trump in. Remember when Trump got COVID and it was like the biggest thing ever? To think that was during the pandemic, that was a recent memory.
It was funny because
that wasn't 20 years ago.
No,
it wasn't.
I remember. I remember when they had the January 6th riots and we were watching it. Or I think Daniel saw it and knew it was happening. I had it on the TV over here, and Adam had no idea it was going on, and I just didn't know how to react as we're talking about hockey as I'm watching this on the television. That was 12 months ago. That was almost 12 months ago.
That's crazy.
Well, guys, it is the Christmas time. It is the holiday time. It is the New Year's time, which means World Juniors. We did kind of preview a bit of the tournament last episode.
Those are outdated now.
Yeah, no, of course.
Predictions.
What were we doing? What were some of our predictions?
I think just some of the lineup schemes, how the defensive pairings were going to go, and the goalies. That was the big thing.
I disagree with that because I think we were unsure about where the goalies exactly were. And I don't think either of Canada's goalies specifically have really been that great. We'll get into that a little later. But, I mean, yeah, we were like, oh, Connor Bedard might work his way up. He stayed on the fourth line, but, he just casually 16-year-old gets a hat trick like his Wayne Gretzky. It was pretty funny. But again, it was against Austria. So, but I think first off to talk about, it's a bit of a downer note to the World Juniors, but obviously the other day, the States, I think that's been yesterday's game, the States forfeit their game against the Swiss because they had two players test positive for COVID, mandated quarantine and all that. Today's game between Czechia and Finland has apparently been forfeited by the Czechs. And they, it is kind of good that this, at first when I heard there was no relegation, this tournament was kind of like, what are you talking about? But the way it's starting to go with COVID, it sort of makes sense. Even though, let's be honest, Austria should be nowhere near this tournament right now.
I mean, even last year, right? Was it Austria that Canada?
I think it was, they lost 14-0 to the States.
The state, like second year, you kind of feel bad for them. You do. Like, I think we all feel bad for them. But I mean, listen, like I saw a post today saying Team Germany was going through the same thing a few years ago, and look at them now. Now they're not a top team, but there's clearly improvement. Another example, look at the soccer team in Canada. I mean, look at years ago, they were barely competing, but now they've taken those steps. Are they the best team in North America? No, but they're taking steps, and that's all that matters.
Like there's more of a system. Like I agree with Alex. Or I cannot remember who wrote this. It was in the sports. It was in Sportsnet. It was a feature, but maybe like a year ago, about how certain countries take the World Juniors, like how seriously they take it. And like Austria's up there, but Germany is just on a whole nother level in terms of what they've been doing with development. And then like I think they interviewed Maurice Seider about it, and just how like Leon Draisaitl is the poster boy for every kid who wants to play hockey now in Mannheim.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think most forget about just like Germany and that. I mean, you just look at Draisaitl, Pierre, pretty decent player, pretty good, like 50 goal scorer at one time, Hart Trophy winner. I mean, decent player. I mean, I can't remember if it's like Austria have a program going. I may get them mixed up with Germany here, but I'm pretty sure. I think it may have been listening to it from TSN. One of the guys on there talking about how they have a program, and I think it was Gord and Ray, and I think it was Germany. I can't remember if it was Germany and the Czechs. I can't remember if they're the same block. It was the Germany game I was watching though, and they were mentioning how like they have like the Red Bull program there. Red Bull just have their fingers in every sport, don't they? And how like it takes time, but like those programs they're on the way. And I mean, you look at Germany last year. I mean, they really just got their best players were in COVID protocol, and even this year, I was kind of like, okay, so they don't have JJ Peterka. They obviously didn't have Stutzla. And I understand that players come in and that's how juniors work. They cycle in and out. But I was still thinking, like, what are they going to do here? And I mean, they haven't been bad, to be honest. They haven't been bad. So, hey. Like, I still hate the round robin because it's like, oh, great, I just get to watch Canada steamroll everyone except maybe a competitive game against the States. But I don't care about the round robin. It's kind of awful.
I think you make a good point there about Germany, though, losing their star players yet still being able to keep up in a way. I think that's really important for development because, not everyone has the riches in terms of player depth like the US, like Canada. So to me, they play as a team. They don't play as individual players. Not that I'm saying Canada and US play as individual players, but I think when you have a lot of star players, that might happen. Like that's destined to happen sometimes. So for them to be able to play as a team in a team sport is really, really important. So I think it's more than just the players. It's the actual system, as we were saying.
Mm-hmm. And it also shows that if they have, competent junior level players coming through, that their development also is like adds to, again, it's the program doing its thing, right? Like Germany is, not to mention Germany itself is just a nation that just does a lot of things, right? Like you can never keep Germany down. Like they're super athletes there too. I know a lot of us, it's like that super athlete thing has always been like the Russians, but Germany's a nation. Is like it's amazing like how far they've come, like how they were able to build up after World War I and even after World War II, like the state they're in. Now I'm not complimenting.
That's not
what I'm trying to say.
That's
I'm
not what I was.
The Nazis, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? Is like they're a superpower in Europe still. If you look at everything they've ever been through as a nation. Maybe we just cut that part out.
No. I what I was gonna say, what I was laughing at is I was gonna make the exact same point. So I'm not like, yes, of course that's not what you mean. We all know.
You know what it is, Alex? I'm rewatching the World War II in color Road to Victory that just came out. So I have World War II on the brain. But,
no, I think you're right. I was gonna make that exact same point. I was laughing because only history people get that.
Yeah, me too. I was laughing about that.
It's just like, I'm just saying, it's like not that time period, but like Germany today, you can't help but like respect what they have done in today. I'm not, obviously I'm not.
Yes, no, I get it. Like we get it.
God.
Don't worry.
If you're not listening to this episode, it's been taken down for. But Jesus Christ. Anyway, looking at other places around, just some sort of highlights. I want to talk about goaltenders for a second here. Going back to Canada's goaltenders specifically, right? Okay, so I didn't watch a lot of the Austria game against Canada because I was watching the Habs play because I'm insane. We're going to talk about that game a little later, though. But also, like, you kind of look at it. So, Kosa comes in for the back half. It's Kosa in the back half of that Russian preliminary game, right? I said it right. So,
Hey.
I don't think he turned any heads, and two of those goals were just Michkov being Michkov. What a great player that is, that 2023 draft. Holy cow. But that, I think, was the second goal against, was just an angle that you can't let a goal in. Then Garon was in during the Czechia game. And if that was a game against, no, nothing against Czechia, but if you had playing like an A-tier team, like you can say Sweden or something, Garon cost them that game with how he was playing. You know what I mean? And again, I don't want to start and yesterday's game versus Austria, no offense, but like, how much am I supposed to take out of that? You know what? And look at Brochu and supposed to be like, okay, you let 2 goals in against Austria, which I think there's been games in this tournament when they've put out less than 15 shots. And wasn't it like one he was completely out of the net for?
Yeah, that was the one I mentioned to you guys, the failed poke check. He tried to do that. He got out of his net.
So I just like, who the heck is the star? I think it's their next game is against Finland. So whoever goes out there is probably the starter. But like, who do you go with? Because they're all kind of bad or meh.
I don't see I don't understand the reluctance to play Sebastian Kosa. Like, he wasn't backing up in their first game. Correct me if I'm wrong, he wasn't backing up against Austria.
Yeah, he's been a scratch.
So he's been a scratch, and I'm not saying he should play because he's a first round pick, but I'm saying maybe you give him a chance, more than a chance than the preliminary game against Russia. Like, he's a first round pick. Maybe try him out. I'm not saying he deserves it because he's a first round pick, but there has to be some merit there to say, well, I mean, the Detroit Red Wings picked him in the first round. Let's try him out. It's better than the other 2 options we may have. We don't know. He played for 40 minutes? Like, I just don't understand that reluctance to play him.
It's at this point for me, and Daniel, love your thing on this, is I can Garand at this point because I don't see him as an option. Again, like Daniel, your take on that?
Yeah, I like when we mentioned it last time, I said how Dylan Garand was gonna have the first opportunity at this because he's a returning guy, and it's Dave Cameron behind the bench again. He's a pretty old-fashioned guy when it comes to these tournaments, how the teams are set up. If you really look at how everything's been comprised, compared to Andre Tournier last year, and I'm not really sure what they're gonna do with this because I've mentioned to you guys before, like the history of kind of not really caring whether or not the goalie's in the first round or not, and still going with the quote-unquote more experienced, I guess, 1 year older guy. And the examples I used before was Dustin Tokarski, who was a 5th round pick, but he still started over Chet Picard, who went 18th overall. Or we have Justin Pogge, who was a 3rd round pick, and he started over Devin Dubnyk, who was a 1st round pick. I think the only exception I've mentioned was Marc-Andre Fleury, that even before he was drafted, he played literally every game. And I'm not sure. Like, I really believe maybe it was just the fact that I saw, this guy Sebastian Kosa went over Jesper Wallstad in the draft. And when we look back on last year, Jesper Wallstad struggled the same way and still played a bunch of games. And they just kind of said, okay, let him figure it out. We know that the talent is there. But I think how everything is set up right now, where Dave Cameron going with Brett Brochu in the second game, there's not really that, runway, I think, to kind of say, I really stretched out my number 1 guy going to this tournament. Now, let me see what I have here in the medal rounds or the qualifying rounds. And I'm not saying it's not just on the team itself going with this, I guess, setup, but I'm looking at it. It's, I guess, the nature of the tournament this year. I mean, you don't have as much leeway with it. So it is just an interesting thing where, do you go with one of the 2 guys now in the next game, or do I do the unconventional thing and try out the 3rd guy?
I think their next game is against Germany. I don't know why I thought Finland, but
It's today, right? Yeah, it's today.
Yeah, it's 7:00.
Hopefully, it doesn't get canceled. I thought wasn't there a COVID scare with Germany? No, I'm still thinking of last year, aren't I? Well, it's like, well, you don't normally have a lot of runway in these tournaments anyway, because it's like 2 weeks.
Usually, you have the pre-tournament games where, like, you only had one, and you usually go back and forth between the three guys, and then you figure it out.
Yeah, but Garan was awful in their one actual meaningful game. Get him out of there. Against Germany, okay, so here's what I do. You put Kosa in against Germany. That's a decent team you can see what he had. Like, Garan's lost the job. There's no leeway here unless there's an injury. Like, just, you got to run with the hot hand, and they don't have a hot hand, but don't get the one that's put his hand in the snow and he's colder than the Arctic right now. That didn't make a lot of sense, but that's what I see at Garan. It's just... Forget draft order or anything. Like, again, you want to mention Jesper Wallstaff. We're going to get to him in a second. But, like, listen, just go with whoever's the best or at this point, because no one's standing out. The least smelliest pile of crap. I don't know.
And the thing is, you can't throw. I don't think it's fair for anybody involved for you to throw Sebastian Kosa in a medal game or in a like medal round round game.
Qualifying, yeah.
I don't think it's fair for you to go, well, you played 40 minutes in a preliminary game against Russia. We didn't like what we had in Garan or what's his name? Broshu. Sorry, Brett Broshu. And now we're going to give you the chance. You have two games. You have Germany and you have Finland. I agree with you, Adam. You play him against Germany. If he does well, you play him again against Finland.
Mm-hmm. Okay, looking at other goalies here. We mentioned him a few times there. Jesper Wallstedt. Do you guys remember what I said to you both during the draft and Wallstedt being passed over by a certain team in Western Canada?
They're going to regret it?
It makes no sense.
So I do not understand why the Oilers didn't take Jesper Wallstedt. I remember, this isn't me just honking on his horn because he was just really good. I remember very vividly telling you guys the Oilers need to take this guy. They didn't. Minnesota grab him, another team that kind of needs a younger goaltender for the future. Sorry, Kakinen, but yeah. And he throws out in a game where I don't think Sweden were great, a 48 save shutout against the Slovaks. He won them that game.
For sure.
Before we go into Jesper Wallstedt, I just remember reading something that someone, allegedly a source close to Ken Holland, is that he didn't pick him because he tried to maximize because you know how they traded all those draft picks before the COVID lockdowns?
Yeah.
He tried to recoup some of those picks. You know, like when GMs usually do that. So I think they got an extra third to go to. Yeah.
Has he? I'm sorry. And I've been very critical of Edmonton, but I look at their goaltending prospect, and I agree with you, Adam. I don't see anyone anywhere close to what the ceiling is or the floor is for Jesper Wallstedt.
It's just I just it's a question, man. Listen. There's no such thing as having too many goaltenders in the system because they're just such a wild sort of player type. Just get what you can. This is goaltenders aren't normally. It's very rare that we're going to see multiple goaltenders taken in the first round, and it bothers me. I couldn't stop thinking about that game. I was watching it. I'm just thinking to myself, man, Mike Smith is starting today because he's been hurt most of the year, and I'm just thinking to myself, if he starts to fall flat and you don't make a move at the deadline, or even if you do, that's just a stopgap. And I worry about Edmonton there. I really worry about him. Kind of like how I'm worrying about Yaroslav Askarov. Now, listen, before we go into this, it is always very important for people to know that the World Juniors are not a great indicator of how a player will be in an NHL career. People were talking about how Shane Wright hasn't stood out a ton in this tournament. He's still going to go first overall in Montreal, whether it's by Montreal or Arizona, who knows? Please, Montreal. But the thing with Yaroslav Askarov is I was looking at his elite prospects, and he hasn't played more than 30 games in a year for a few seasons now. So with him, you have to evaluate sort of more and more because of how little he actually is playing in Russia. You have to look more at these World Juniors, and it doesn't help that he wasn't great last year. He is, I think he's basically lost the starting job too. He's worrying me, and I would assume Nashville fans out there are like, ooh, Thank goodness UC Soros is working out.
I mean, it also doesn't help that Russia's defense isn't looking fantastic either.
It doesn't help that Russia don't know how to build a team.
They didn't really bring their best team this year. Like, they didn't bring North American prospects.
Right. So we talk about the politics of sport. Look at Russia.
Yeah.
If NHL players were going to the Olympics, I'd have serious doubts about Artemi Panarin going to the Olympics. But besides the point, again, if they had a better defenseman, it might help them as well.
I'm not really worried too much. Like we've mentioned, I love the World Juniors, and I always hype up these guys, but I'm not really worried because he's one of those really rare cases where a guy goes 3 times, and even though he's had the experience before, he doesn't necessarily, shine in the third one. And, it happens. Like, okay, this is one example. Jack Campbell, he went to 3 World Juniors. He won a gold medal in one of them, but his third one, he wasn't good at all. And the US wasn't good at all around him. And, it's just one small example, but it's something there where, yeah, I agree. Like, I'm not too worried about what's going to happen with him. Like, we don't know how his trajectory of things are going to be, or even the North American, expected arrival for Askarov. So I think for him, he'll be okay.
But he wasn't good last year either.
He was good, this first year?
Yeah, but the last 2 have been bad. And I think right now in Russia, he's at like a .905 save percentage.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there. I think Nashville fans are kind of like, what's going on here? What do you think of this guy? What are we thinking of this guy? I'm sure he kind of wishes that he was going to be young enough to play next year because they're going to be in Siberia. How in the world did that happen? Tune in for the 2023 World Juniors in Siberia. Like, who's trapped? Who, like, families of, like, you got to think about that, right? If you're from, I don't know, Edmonton, or you're a BC kid and you've made Team Canada, and your family's like, yeah, I'm going to come with you. And I'm going to fly all the way, not to just Russia, to Siberia. What is that about?
Maybe if they're from Edmonton, it does get quite cold there too. So they might, BC, I understand,
the distance.
Not as cold there. But yeah, the distance 100%. Again, I think it was funny. Caught me off guard when you texted me saying that they were playing in Siberia next year. I mean, I don't know. I
did a double take when Gord Miller mentioned it. I'm like, what? I Googled it just to make sure.
I like it. You know why? Because if you look since like, I'll say 2005.
Yeah.
It's really, you kind of could predict where it's going to be. And I think Bob McKenzie mentioned this before, where they used to have these tournaments in places where you wouldn't expect them to be at, where there is a huge hockey fandom there, but it's, in a way, they're kind of underserved. So, like, one example he used was when, arguably the greatest Canadian World Junior team ever, 2005, they won it in Grand Forks, like North Dakota.
I was about to say, where is that?
Yeah. Grand Forks, North Dakota. Or if you look at other cities here where, when they had it in UFA in Russia, that was big. Or even places like, Halifax and Sydney, when Marc-Andre Fleury was playing, that was really, really big for those cities. But when you see the trend here where it's like, oh, okay, Malmo, Toronto, Montreal, Helsinki, let's go back to Toronto, Montreal again. Where are we going now?
Is there a bidding for these locations?
It's more of like, they kind of just like appoint them to it, and they made the mistake before where they're like, hey, we're getting the most revenue even if we go to Buffalo because all the Canadian fans are coming, right? Let's go back to Buffalo. Like, how many times? Or, hey, they love hockey in Montreal and Toronto, let's go. But they're not doing that anymore because it's been like fatigue. Because I remember they put the World Juniors in Toronto and Montreal the same time the Leafs were going to open soon, and then the same time that the World Cup of Hockey was happening. So, like, nobody actually went to the World Juniors.
That, and they raised, I remember they made the prices really stupid. Because at the end, because here's the thing about the trap in Canada with the World Juniors is it's become this, like, you can, I would love to know the revenue there, because you got to think it's at least, a sold out medal round is, I'm certain now that we know some of the gross of some of the home games for the Canadian NHL teams, I wonder if it's got to be at least 2 million per game. I'm starting to think like gross.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think of. So you can
Without
like you think of the money there. Without concessions, and you could imagine like, oh, you can go to the middle of the game, you know, get some beers out for a U.S. Canada. I just think, listen, they can make a pretty penny there rather than Saskatchewan. But like but the thing is, Canadians will, depending on the time of year, because obviously if you have a Montreal home opener probably around the same time as Toronto and the World Cup, which was in Toronto that year.
It's like people just got tired. Like, we're spending how much on these tickets? I have a funny story about this before we move on about the World Juniors.
Please make it quick because we have to talk about the women's tournament as well.
Yes. My friend was living in Montreal at the time, and it was when I was watching all the games because Carl Grundstrom was on Sweden, and I believe it was a medal game. It was like the bronze medal game. And he told me like you could get really close tickets for like $5.
Really?
Because nobody was going to the games.
I wish, man. I wish. $5 for tickets, man. I remember when no one was going to Buffalo games to start the year.
Yeah.
And it was like you could do like $20 for behind the glass. It was like, well, what are we doing here? It
was probably cheaper to fly down to or drive to Buffalo from Toronto and then drive back that night, all with gas and food and all that included, to go watch Buffalo and the Blues.
Seeing the prices of the finals games in Tampa and thinking, how? This is annoying me that they're so cheap. It's like a regular season game almost.
Oh my God.
Hockey lads. Okay. Listen, I don't know where the episode's going to cut off in a second to go. Dogs are loud. Sorry about that.
But we love dogs.
What?
But we love our dogs.
I don't like my dogs when they steal my lasagna. Even like they're Garfield, cheeky dogs. Anyway, but we're not going to talk about something as jovial as dogs stealing lasagna. Because the IIHF has sort of let women's hockey down for a second straight year. All IIHF tournaments in January have apparently been canceled, not postponed. Including in there, I believe, are multiple women's tournaments, and the headline is the U18 tournament for a second straight year being canceled. What's significant about that, if you're thinking, it's safety or whatnot, the World Juniors we just talked about, the U20s, will still be taking place, which is rich because games are getting canceled left and right. I stole that from Alex from our previous take, and I make no chagrin about it. Anyway. For those of you who want to hear a terrible response to the whole thing from the head of the IIHF, President Luc Tardif, listen to the new episodes of the Ray and Drags podcast. It's not a very long episode. 20 minutes of it is the Tardif interview. I asked both the guys to listen to it. Because from the fallout from this tournament being canned, as well as some other ones, many women's hockey players, of course, Marie-Philippe Poulin, Blair Turnbull, Hilary Knight, all of them, and some other non-hockey people like Gary D, which was pretty funny. Maxime Comtois, NHL player, former captain of the World Juniors team a couple of years ago. Have all kind of come out and supported the women's game. Hockey Canada have, USA Hockey have. And in this interview, I think Tardif put more effort into calling out USA Hockey and saying, how about you give us a plan instead of calling us out, than he probably did into keeping that women's tournament alive. I thought it was just, did you guys kind of hear in the background, as Tardif is talking, you can almost hear someone bang a desk. Did it not, like, he sounded so personally attacked by all the crap the IIHF are getting, even though it was completely self-inflicted. Like, what an embarrassment.
That was beyond embarrassing. Like, I mean, when they canceled when they made the cancellations, I was thinking about it, and everyone loves to talk about it. It's like we're divided in sides here. Well, we want to grow the game, but the business of the game, what we have to realize as the hockey community, is because it is a sport, this isn't a business. This isn't just strictly a business. Now, and we'll get to the NHL, because I think the NHL is in a different situation, but they are trying to grow the game. The role of the IIHF, in my eyes, is to grow the game. Like, I don't know if that's necessarily a popular take. It's just what I think. So for them to come out and not just postpone them, but cancel them makes zero sense. It is almost 2022. I get we're in a pandemic, but every other sports league has found a way to overcome the pandemic. Has there been bumps in the road? Absolutely. 100%. But that shouldn't stop them from trying to find a solution. The audacity for him to come out and say, number one, that, the USA Hockey should give them a plan is disgusting. Number two, the idea that, we have to run 42 world championships a year. That's your job. That's your job. Like, plain and simple. It's your job to run these 42 championships. You find a way to do it, come up with a solution. Everyone else has done it except you, except the IIHF. We love to pounce on the NHL for not growing the game. It's time to pounce on the IIHF for not helping grow the game, because it is more than just the NHL. It's the IIHF.
What was ridiculous too was and to sort of piggyback off your point there, is it's also not USA Hockey's job to have a backup plan for these tournaments. And in that interview, and I don't know if it's because Luc Tardif's English isn't the best. I think, there was some umming and ahhing there. Obviously, French is his first language. But, obviously sounding annoyed doesn't do you any favors here. He talked about how the situation has changed, as if he made a point of mentioning how many NHL games were postponed in November compared to the Christmas break. When, if you're going to talk about big sports leagues, look at Adam Silver's point to the fact that, COVID's not going anywhere. And it was almost another really, really annoying thing. I'm going to read the IIHF statement in a second here. Was Tardif sort of mentioning, we don't pick gender here. And, COVID doesn't pick gender. Alex had a really funny tweet where it was COVID doesn't pick the month either. I thought that was really good, Alex.
Well, because that was the point he was trying to make. And it was just, it was dumb because it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Yes, you're right. COVID does not pick gender. COVID does not pick months. The games happening between December 26th and December 31st are not magically going to be COVID free because you said that we're going to cancel all the tournaments in January. Oh no, COVID's going to run away. No, that's not how it works.
He also said, I don't know quite the point he was trying to make, but he mentioned the age of the athletes and it being a health concern somehow because they were U18 girls, but it's dude, there's a 16-year-old playing for Team Canada right now. What are you talking about? And
they're all in the range. That's the one thing that kind of got me too, where he spoke about gender, he spoke about age, and he's like, this is the level of concern that we have here. But okay, when I was listening to this, I'm like, no one is under 5 years old. If I'm going to use it in the most extreme example, everybody who's there is eligible to be fully vaccinated.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good way of putting it, Daniel. That's a very good way of putting it. So I'll read the statement. I'm not going to read it all at once because I guarantee there's going to be parts we're going to want to pick off here. So this is the official statement from IIHF President Luc Tardif. I saw recently was on their Twitter. So, quote, "This is not a gender issue. This is a COVID-19 issue. I would ask in turn how it is fair to postpone all the time. The top divisions are always." Okay, hold on a minute.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yes.
It's not a COVID issue, by the way. It's a money issue.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a money. Let's not be dumb about it. It's the same thing with Adam Silver saying, well, there's no logic to pausing the season. There's no logic to pausing the season because fans are still willing to pay top dollar to go see your product, despite star players being out. That's purely a business thing. They're making their decision because of money, not COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
No worries. I would ask in turn, how is it fair to postpone all the time the top divisions and always to simply cancel the lower divisions? That's me reading it word for word, by the way. I don't think they put this. I don't think anyone proofread this. Continuing, these cancellations have affected 6 tournaments, not just one, including 2 men's U20 events that critics seem to conveniently forget. Okay, first off, people have been pointing out the other tournaments as well. It's just he's ignoring the fact back-to-back years in this part specifically. Also, you're still missing the point. I think he's still kind of missing the point. He sounds so defensive here too. Like, dude, just it's almost like he went to the Gary Bettman school of how to defend oneself, except he didn't quite, go back.
The same composure.
I know. I think Tardif is a bit more aggressive about it.
Yeah,
but like Gary
he's not
can
as
be
practiced.
Yes, exactly.
Gary's been doing this for 25 years. Okay, he's
he knows how to.
He's a practiced NHL commissioner.
Listen, we're canceling the season. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Rick Westhead has a question. That's too bad. Continuing here. In a normal season, we are not canceling anything. The IIHF is not in the business of canceling tournaments. We are here to play tournaments, but we are battling circumstances that are out of our control. And to be perfectly honest, we have to think of the future too. I don't know what exactly he means by the future too. So what do you not want to... Is the risk of putting a tournament together and then COVID ravages and you can't afford to... You don't think you're going to make the money back? I don't get what he means there.
This statement is so much more concerning than anything the NHL has ever done trying to grow the game, because he's missing the point. He's not getting a grasp of what the point is. Yes, there's a factor of 2 years in a row, the U18s, women's World U18 championships were canceled. But you canceled 6 tournaments and let one go because what? Because it started 4 days before January?
Continuing here. Is there an economic incentive to host the Men's World Championship and World Juniors every year no matter what? Absolutely. But people misunderstand that this is because we favor men over women's hockey, which is completely false. The revenue generated from these two events enable our federation to survive and support the operations of all other IIHF World Championship events. So if I have to make every effort to host a specific tournament to ensure the survival of other events, then that is my responsibility as the IIHF president to do so. So let's just understand this, right? Because, we got to remember, a big story has been that, the only player in the history of hockey to have won a World Junior after winning a World Championship medal, I think, is Bergeron.
Yeah.
But Owen Power could do it. So the reason I mention that is because, he won a World Championship earlier this year, because the Men's World Championship happened without a problem. Now, I think there was the Women's Worlds that happened too, and, that took place, and Canada won gold, suck it, America. Again, the World Juniors right now are happening. I think you can argue that all of those are very high-level events that can bring in good revenue.
Remember, the women's happened because everyone complained that they weren't going to do it. That was the plan. The plan was they were going to cancel it.
And he made a big point of saying last year, everyone blamed was the Saskatchewan government. He's like, no one blamed the government there when people absolutely did. I remember Cassie Campbell-Pascal making a point of this is on the government and the IIHF because they didn't have a backup plan. You're telling me they didn't have a plan B in case the World Juniors got messed up? No, of course they did.
I saw this story going around about Steve Jobs. And you'll understand the content, why. So they were talking about when the first iPhone came out, when they did the presentation in front of it, they do the conference. When they did the presentation at the conference, they had 5 iPhones there, 5 in case, and they knew that there was probably a good chance that the first iPhone wasn't gonna finish the entire conference, along with the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth. They had a plan. They had a backup plan. They had a backup plan. That's a business. That's running a business properly. That's not what they're doing. They're clearly not doing it. Also, he contradicts himself there when as soon as he says that it's absolutely a financial incentive, and then goes on to say, well, we got to make sure that all these federations survive. So it's not a COVID-19 issue. as he said in his very first sentence.
The second part of the statement is just really going over like, oh, we've been doing this since this and this. We support this many women for the raid. Like it's just a bunch of sort of padding crap that's not really important. Also, in that Ray and Dregs interview, he mentioned that he doesn't want to use the term of rescheduling because then he's committed to it, which I thought, okay, that's from Gary Bettman's Play School. The look that Alex is making right now.
I don't know.
I know.
I don't know what
so
to
upset,
say.
yeah.
I don't know what to say. Like, because it's genuinely concerning. Like, you know, this is the guy who is running the International Ice Hockey Federation, who oversees Hockey Canada, USA Hockey, like the programs in Germany, around the world, every single hockey federation. And I just felt, you know, look at how he's handled the Andre Deniskin stuff. Apparently he's played internationally within the month of December. So again, what a failure of handling that. And, you know, and then handling this, you had an opportunity to look at how your predecessors handled last year, and you chose to essentially handle it the same way. And that's the most disappointing part. And these guys are now in charge of growing the game of hockey around the world.
By the way, so the way like canceling like tournaments, especially, it was 5 apparently. This is from Michelle J on Twitter. This will cancel every single U18 women's tournament, all 5 of them. All 5 of them. That's insane.
It's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of hockey. That's a lot of showcase. That's just it's Alex's thing of growing the game. Well, freaking, it's kind of it's not even where like the NHL aren't associated with a women's league right now. And I mean, there's problems with they should be, but it's even like worse than the WNBA. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We talked about that before. Yeah. But it's even worse that the IIHF have this annual bunch of tournaments and they're just not doing anything about it. I think we can move on here. Just like Tardif has just instantly, like I've never seen the guy who's been on the job for so little amount of time just completely blow it as much as he has. Other World Junior notes, like, yeah, Connor Bedard's good, play him more. I don't think we need to go too much into the other games. You guys have a note on Owen Power because first overall draft pick. I think he had a hat trick, didn't he?
He did against the Czechs. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Good play.
Mishak was good, but you know he can only do so much.
Owen Power mentioned that that was the reason. One of the reasons he went back to University of Michigan was he wanted to play in the World Juniors. I mean, fair enough. That's awesome.
Well, there was the thing of like, well, he wanted to work more on his offensive abilities, and he's been the big part of that power play, right? So, you like to see that a lot. Because
there was a lot of concerns coming into, and we've mentioned it before about Canada's blue line and how Dave Cameron was going to rely a lot on Kaden Gooley and Owen Power to kind of, you know, ride the ship with things. But like, thankfully, the other guys have been able to kind of transition really well into these competitive games.
You want to talk about leadership? I mean, you know, there's Kaden Gooley, you know, leading Canada. You know, his goaltender's awful, and he leads them in the comeback win over the Czechs. I mean, you know, and they weren't celebrating too hard after like the 3rd goal against Austria. That's from Kaden Gooley. That's a leader.
Did you see yesterday? This one, like, I think Gordon Miller was also kind of laughing at it too. A lot of the Austrian players were like getting in on Kaden Gooley, and these guys were like 5 inches shorter, and they were all the ones who were still wearing the cages.
Man, that, and I think it was like the Russian game. He was laying the body. That kid loves throwing hits. It's really funny to watch. I can't wait for a couple years. And probably next year, to be honest. And you can just have the left side, and it's like, we're going to try and go down and break through that side of Montreal's defense. And there's Alexander Romanov, going to wreck you. Here's Kaden Gooley, he's going to wreck you. Like, I'm looking forward to that so much.
And there's Ben Sherrod on the top pair.
He'll be traded by then to Edmonton for an unprotected first round
off of his fresh 8-year deal.
Get out of here. Get out of here. No, it will be Joel Edmondson. He'll still be there. If he ever plays, because what the heck is wrong with Joel Edmondson? And then we should all, wish I could talk. Especially in that pre-tournament game, Niemela and Hirvonen were looking pretty good. Leafs prospects, Team Finland, pretty cool.
Oh yeah, sorry, I've been muted myself.
I always
no,
sorry.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Oh no, I just would laugh because I think they've mentioned it before too. Like those were the two picks that Ottawa gave away. They're like, what did they say? Like Ottawa gave up these two quality Finnish picks in exchange for Jake Sanderson's roommate.
Was that Tyler Boucher?
No, it was that same draft. Let me just check who it was. It was like 42nd overall.
Oh, okay. No, I think like with Hirvonen and Niemela, I've watched the games they've played. I really do enjoy watching them, considering that they're getting top minutes. We'll just have to wait and see. Like for Niemela, I think it's a little bit different because he's doing so well in the top league in Finland, and I think he just signed a contract extension. So if the Leafs do sign him and bring him over, and things don't necessarily work out, he gets to go back to a league he's already done really well in. So for me, that's a positive. And with Hirvonen, like they signed him right out of being drafted, and you don't always see that with a second round guy. So again, the positives are there.
I'd like to confirm.
What? Oh,
just sorry to confirm the pick. So
yeah,
my mistake. It was not 42nd. It was 44th.
And
so who did Ottawa take?
Tyler Kleven.
Yes.
Well, they like doing that with like U.S. friends, like Kachuk and Norris are close together. I think it was a big part of having like them together.
Yeah. Man, I'm eating my words when they made that trade. I'm like, wow, you made that trade because they're best friends. I'm like, that's not a great look, but Josh Norris's look fantastic. So
decent player.
I'm happy to be wrong.
Centers they need. Hey, are you a big Bill Nye the Science Guy, Daniel?
Yeah.
Did you put this in the doc?
No, I think it was Alex.
That was not. So I went on. I saw Bill Nye, Matthew Nye's the Science Guy. I'm like, did I miss something? Absolutely on Matthew Nye.
Okay,
so I searched up Matthew Nye's science, and nothing came up. I'm like, okay, so either I'm screwed or Daniel made a joke.
I made a joke because what happened is in the pre-tournament, everyone was saying Matthew Knees. And then, when they gradually go through the tournament, you're like, oh, our correction, it's like not Askarov, it's Askarov, right?
Yes.
So for this one, they're like, well, our apologies. It's not Matthew Knees, it's Matthew Nyes. And then I just saw some random person put on Twitter, Matthew Nyes, the Science Guy. And that's how I remembered it now.
He's okay. I mean, we've only seen him play one game, which I think he did score in. So again, I wish I could see more of him. Unfortunately,
so you're saying top six potential.
I did not say that. Again, I did not say that. As we said earlier in the show, we will not be making any outstanding projections about players based on their World Juniors.
I'm already convinced from that one game.
Okay,
he was like a first round pick that was taken in the second round.
You be convinced of that. I'm not. I want to get into this radical Leafs media shenaniganery.
All right, I'm going to do another radical Leafs media thing. Matthew Nyes is going to become more of a valuable pick than Carson Kuhlman, the pick that the Leafs gave away for Nick Foligno.
Okay, we'll just. Which one, Daniel?
It's a good point.
But okay, moving on. We know that the Olympics aren't happening for NHL players unless they get pushed to next year. Doubt it though. Connor McDavid sort of spoke on about we need to. It's disappointing, and we need to have some sort of best on best tournament. Saying something, but still kind of being Connor McDavid and being nice and respectful. Then Brad Marchand put something out. I still haven't seen the Brad Marchand fine for this, but it's coming. So he put this out on his social media. Quote, the NHL and NHLPA, he tagged them apparently, which is pretty funny, can change the rules of the CBA to add a taxi squad so that they don't miss any games and don't lose any money, which has already been agreed upon that the players will pay back in escrow until the owners are made whole from what they have lost during the pandemic, regardless of how many games are missed. Yet they can't do a taxi squad during the Olympics so they can honor the agreement they made so the NHL players can go. Please tell me that's not BS. And for all of you who want to pipe back about forfeiting pay while being gone, yeah, not a problem. Let the players make that choice.
Isn't it interesting that like they keep throwing the escrow stuff in the owner's face? Are they not 50-50 partners? Like, what are we doing? Make the decision.
Listen,
I get it.
Wasn't it not? Were there not reports that some players were, when they heard about possibly losing play, were like, I don't know if I want to go, and then there was the 3-week quarantine thing, and players weren't sure if they wanted to go, and apparently, at least from what the league said, and reports were that the decision was in the players' hands. I hate defending the league, but I think Brad Marchand's a little off base here.
I think he makes one good point, which is I think the league could have done more to ensure the players go to the Olympics by adding taxi squads per se earlier. I don't know if that necessarily fixes everything. But the main thing that the league would have had to do to ensure that was to probably add more restrictions, right? And turn the league into somewhat of a bubble.
The thing is, when you mention like taxi squads as like a hypothetical thing for an Olympic team, it's not necessarily a radical idea. Because I'll use 2010 as an example, where they had a bunch of guys on reserve that in case of injury, you make the team. Like Jason Spezza, Jay Bolmeister, Jeff Carter, they were all on call on in case of injury throughout the tournament, you're added in. So it's not like it's something like, oh, we have to change this fundamentally and make something new.
No, you're right.
Oh, you're on mute now.
Oh,
I was muted. That's awkward. On top of that, taxi squads are back, by the way. There's some different rules to stop teams from pulling cap shenanigans. I don't understand why you couldn't have instituted this earlier in the year, but anyway, they're coming back. But quickly going back to the best on best stuff here. Alex, take it away, because I'm assuming you put this Greg Wyshynski stuff, and you also have a proposal for a World Cup. So I'm happy to hear this.
Yeah, I did put the Greg Wyshynski stuff. I'll go there first because I think it's related to what we're talking about. Last night, let me pull up this tweet real quick. Greg Wyshynski tweeted, Marchand makes an interesting point. Why does the league have to shut down for the winter games? Why aren't these players, quote, on loan like in soccer? And if they give up salary to supplement replacement players for a few weeks in February every 4 years, why doesn't NHL play on? And I know a lot of people have been talking about we're going to lose all our star players for 3 weeks. That's not my argument, actually. I think, you know what, that argument doesn't make a lot of sense because star players get injured every so often. So it's a hard argument to prove. My argument is, I don't think the salary cap is set up in a way for the league to do that, because the guys that would be on the taxi squad when you leave for 3 to 4 weeks are guys who are going to make $750,000 to about, let's say, $1.5 million. I think I'm being more than generous with extending it to $1.5 million. But the teams who are going to get the most affected by this are going to be the teams at the top, right? And it's an important time, February. It's leading up to the trade deadline where teams are going to make team-altering decisions potentially. Playoff races may be decided within that month. And to say that you're going to put a replacement level player in there, I don't think makes sense. I don't think any general manager, I don't think any director of hockey operations. Let's look at Kyle Dubas and Jeff Gordon as an example. Nick Suzuki's taken away. Brendan Gallagher is potentially taken away. Carey Price is potentially taken away in one of the most important times of the season. And you're going to replace them with guys making about $1 million. To add to that, it doesn't make sense. Like, we saw Michael Frolik last year play zero. How many games did Michael Frolik play?
Like less than 5.
Yeah,
Less than 5.
I think 3. Okay, I'm going to say 3, but I'm not too sure.
How many guys are going to be willing to take more money and sit in the press box for most of the year and say, well, you're going to play regularly for 3 weeks when the players go away for the Olympics? I don't think any player would really be happy with that situation. And I don't think it's fair on the star players to now throw those guys under the bus, because every single time we have a discussion about the PA, it's always about, well, I mean, they're just kicking the issue down the line to the next generation. The Crosbys and the Malkins, well, they're kicking it down the line to the Matthews and the Marners. The Matthews and the Marners are kicking it down the line to the Bedards and the Shane Wrights, for example. Like, I don't think that idea would work.
Frolik played 8 games, by the way.
Okay,
No,
we were off.
Yeah, I agree with I know people want it. Like, yeah, if they did a World Cup, I'd be like, cool. By the way, I just don't care about it because it's not the Olympics. But yeah, and plus, not to mention the loan thing kind of seems creative, and creativity is not in the NHL's vocabulary.
Yeah, but you
don't remember Team North America?
No, that was sorry, that was not. That was atrocious.
I remember people saying how good they are, but they never even, didn't win anything.
Do you want
That's
to
something
hear?
people love.
Okay, I have a really creative proposal, which means the NHL won't do it. But if the NHL want to be front runners in growing the game, because the IIHF don't want to do that, and they can't work with the NHL along with the IOC. What if the NHL kind of took a stand and said, hey, talks to the other leagues around the world and does create a World Cup similar to the way there's the World Cup in soccer? And I'm not saying, like, listen, it's going to be a rough the first few times because this takes years to develop. But if you have a tournament similar to the Olympics in terms of the players available to them, I think you have more chance of success because you can bring in guys from the SHL. You can bring in guys from the KHL or in Finland or wherever. And I think it gives you more opportunity for the game to grow because who's watching the SHL, who's watching the KHL. It's not easily accessible in Canada. And I'm not entirely sure about the US, but I imagine it's somewhat similar. If the NHL took the stand and said, we're interested in creating a World Cup style tournament and players from across the world can join, I think that would genuinely do wonders for the sport.
See, yeah, so it's almost like a crossover event extravaganza.
Sure.
So you basically it's kind of like you don't have the Olympic banner, but you at least have the actual best on best stuff in there.
Exactly.
Which I think that'd be cool. It's just, yeah, like you say, it's the NHL. They would probably want we're not covering the insurance for your players. It's like the same crap, but it would be a cool idea.
I wouldn't want this management running it though. I wouldn't want Bettman and Co running it. I'd wait till the new guys come in.
When is that?
Not soon, apparently.
Yeah, great.
When Connor Bedard's in the twilight of his career.
No, come on, Daniel. Gary will be living because he's like a vampire, right? But instead of drinking blood, he just continues to blue ball the country of Canada when it comes to hockey. It's like, Quebec? No, Quebec. Arizona, though. We finally got an arena 10 years later. That's probably what's going to happen. Anyway, where are we? So the league, money still matters because a bunch of Canadian games are postponed in January. Especially the Habs. They're going to have a very, very long road trip all of a sudden. With taxi squads and all that kind of stuff being on the way. The league are doing what they can now to sort of save hockey-related revenue. Marchand was sort of talking about it in his statement. Because obviously Montreal and Toronto not having fans in the stands is going to cost a lot of money. I think people were throwing around the league are trying to save around $20 million for these arenas. But it's clearly an indicator if you're not trying to get the season done on time. Not to mention, it's like, does this happen if the players are going to the Olympics? Probably not. And I feel like this situation kind of proves that no matter what, the league were never going to go because they were never going to lose out on this money. But I don't hate that they're doing it either because I want the cap to go up. You know what I mean? It's kind of like it's a crappy situation, but it's a necessary evil almost. Like, listen, I was looking forward to that January game versus the Leafs because I was going to go to it. And now it's thingy for until further notice. So great. Thanks.
There's some silver lining with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I can't see them outright canceling them, which makes sense. Like, I think.
Tell that to the hotel I was going to stay at.
No. Listen, I fully understand. Yes, there's other things. There's other factors other than just the teams. But I don't think they look at it like that. Like, I'm sorry. It's just the unfortunate reality. I don't think the NHL is saying, well, I mean, what about the fans? That's been clearly evident for about 10 years, if they care or not about the fans. So for them to make this decision business-wise, it actually makes a lot of sense. Like, it's 50% capacity in Toronto, 50% capacity in Ottawa, 50% capacity in Montreal. I believe BC. I think Winnipeg too. Why do it now? Why not just wait? You're taking the chance.
Montreal isn't even like the thing with Montreal right now is they're not even 50% apparently. It's like it was supposed to be, but now Quebec are like we're taking it like day by day. It's really crazy there apparently. I'm not living there anymore, so I'm not as up to date. But it's like there was word that there wasn't going to be any fans for the first few weeks in January.
The cases are going because again, that same friend I mentioned in Montreal, he came back to Toronto recently for the holidays, and he's telling me that he's considering he might just stay in Toronto and just work remotely because the cases are going wild again and the restrictions are coming back. Like, it's inevitable now.
Well, they closed everything.
Yeah, they closed everything.
Already, right?
Remember when they had that extreme curfew at like 6 p.m.?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, they're thinking of that again. Where
great.
I just remember the funny story told me where you're only allowed past the curfew if you have to walk your dog. And there were people who are like walking their dog for 5-6 hours because they want to stay out.
I thought it was like that and like worker exceptions, but that makes sense. Because right now it's at least 7 games right now. They've told season ticket holders like, okay, like hold up, it's being worked on. It's being worked on. The Leafs, do they play? When do they play again? Because the game today was postponed.
The game today was
It's
postponed. They play Saturday at 7 p.m.
So what doesn't help Canadian teams either is some news that came out right before we started recording was the NHL, this is from Frank Sarabelli, they've officially shortened isolation period to 5 days with a negative test for COVID, if allowed by health authorities. So Canadian teams aren't going to get a shortened quarantine.
Right.
So they are getting swamped right now because unlike the States, listen, Canada hasn't been perfect for COVID, but they're not ignoring it. Florida.
No, I was going to say it's interesting. It's very businesslike for them the way they've canceled the games. Wednesdays and Saturdays. Those are the only days we can play hockey. Okay.
Wonder why.
Yeah.
Significant dates, Significant dates. I hate this sport. You know what? Once I saw that the Habs were playing last night, I was kind of like, I kind of felt annoyed by it. It was like, oh great, hockey's back. I don't love it, but whatever. Even though they played really, really, the young players I thought were really good, but the officiating completely screwed Montreal in the game. Stop me if you've heard this before. Corey Perry ties the game. Palat gets the game winner. Oh, we're just going to ignore Brendan Gallagher not actually interfering in the goalie, but it's number 11, so we're going to call it no goal. Oh, we're going to ignore, I think it was Brett Kulak getting tripped, leading to the game-winning goal. No. You know what's frustrating about watching the World Juniors and going back to normal hockey?
How good their refs are.
The IIHF calls the rules.
Yeah. We have to see the silver linings in the game.
Yeah.
Congrats, Cale Clegg, on your first career goal.
Hold
World
on.
Junior legend.
There's a few of these, actually. So David Savard scores his first goal as a Hab. Awful. His first one in December. So Rafael Harvey Pinard scores his first career goal.
From our quiz show.
Sorry? Yeah, from the quiz. Yeah. Thank you,
Yes.
Daniel. Thank you so much. Should be a tie right now. Besides that, yeah, Kale Clegg, his first career goal. Veg Demo, it's his second career goal, but his first of the season getting called up. And Corey Schoenman got his first career point assisting on the Harvey Pinard goal, I think it was. Or I can't remember exactly, but he also got his first. It was a really cool night for a lot of them. Also, the Rockets signed a PTO. Devontae Smith-Pelly is back in the
He's
Habs.
back. I love that guy. You know, he only played one junior game.
He played what?
So what happens is he already made the Ducks team, but they loaned him. And then on his first game, I can't remember who it was against. He blocked a shot and he broke his leg. And then that was the only real junior game he played.
Wow, that's a shame. Did he get a gold medal?
I think they won silver or bronze that year.
They would have won gold with Devontae Smith-Pelly in the lineup.
He's back. He was traded for another quiz legend, Yuri Sekac.
That would have been, was it Sekac? Oh, I thought you meant his way out. Okay, no, because I think he was then traded for Mateau.
Yeah, Stefan Mateau.
And at the trade deadline show, Mateau hung up on the TSN guys because they were taking too long. He didn't last long. Noted attitude problem apparently with Stefan Mateau. But he was French and he was 6 foot tall. So
he was a little guy.
He was bad. Well, yeah, sure. But okay. I think that's everything that's going on.
For now.
Anything else you guys want to talk about? COVID's a thing still. That sucks.
It is.
No, I don't have anything.
I guess my last going out was Spider-Man with you guys. I don't know when else to do things with friends in person.
What a movie. Still not over how good it was.
Oh, one more thing I want to add. After January 5th, are we buying the Tim Hortons Team Canada cards?
No, those are a cash grab and they're bad.
I know they are, but like I got a Tim's card for Christmas, so I'm.
Is there a Carey Price card?
If it's a cash grab, they have to be like, hey, you're not getting the Olympics, but remember Carey Price in 2014?
Okay, if you can get me confirmation there's a Carey Price card, sure.
Okay, I'll call Tim Hortons. Hello.
I'm serious, Daniel. Like, if there's a Carey Price card, we're doing it. That's a mandated segment of the show.
Remember? Okay, so just one joke. Remember The Office where Michael's like, oh, I really want to meet somebody. Can someone recommend me for like someone I could call? And then someone, I think it's Kevin, gives Michael the number, and it's like, hi, is Wendy there? And then he's like, what? It's like, can I speak to Wendy? He's like, no, this is a Wendy's restaurant. So I'll call Tim Hortons, like, hello, is this my local Tim Hortons? Will you have a Carey Price card?
Yeah, exactly.
Or if you call their head office, like, can I have a list of the players who have cards? And it's easy, just give me a Carey Price card. Okay.
If they have a Justin Pogge card, oh my goodness.
I hope they have a legacy. Here's Tuukka Rask playing for Finland, and it's like they have a great game again. I don't know, like you have a dual. You know how sometimes there's like those like dual legend cards, and you just have Pogge and Rask.
Oh my gosh! If you guys, that would be the dream card for me.
What a dual thing of Pogge and Rask?
Yes,
you brought him up. Tuukka Rask's going to play for the Boston Bruins this year, right? Like, it's kind of ridiculous. We're talking about cap shenanigans, and this guy's their emergency backup goalie. Like, give me a break.
Without a contract.
Man, I'm trying to explain to my mother, who hates Tampa more than anything, why Nikita Kucherov still isn't back from his injury when he was only supposed to be gone for up to 10 weeks. Like, I'm worried. I'm worried. Points back. Had 2 goals last night. That was pretty lame, but like. Yeah. Still there waiting, like, oh God, where's Kucherov, please? Hurry up. He skated a few weeks ago, that loser.
I need it for my fantasy team.
No, he's a loser. Tampa are cheating losers.
Don't be sore about it.
No, I'll be very freaking sore about it. At least fans get to cry about the Bruins for 10 years. Losing the finals, and you know what real pain feels like. Oh no, fucking good. It's just ridiculous. I'll never forgive Mark Bergevin. That loser. He couldn't have brought Perry back.
I told him. I said it when he signed. I said Montreal should have given him the second year, and I got hate for it. I was told no, you shouldn't give him the second year.
Well, on that note, I think that's everything. Daniel, do you want to do the outro?
Hey guys, Daniel here. Thanks again for listening to the 2-in-1 podcast. Thank you again to Voiced Ed and Alex, who is our sponsor right now?
BetterHelp.
Voiced. Brenton?
BetterHelp.
Okay, thank you again to BetterHelp for being a great sponsor us
I was
through
about to yell stamps.
via Podgo. Remember, we are here back on Sunday.
Are we?
But in the
Are we?
meantime, are we? Or are we back here until further notice? I'm
know
not
what?
sure.
How about
Wednesday.
the end of the show is us figuring out what we're doing?
We will figure things
Saturday.
out.
Well, Sunday's the 2nd. I don't know how many people are busy on the 2nd of January.
Mm-hmm.
So is that
We'll
good?
figure it out.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. But yeah,
My YouTube channel, Daniel CJRU, Alex's blog. Congrats again on your internship, Alex. Very proud of you.
hey,
Thank you.
And any TikTok.
Yeah.
To
Instagram.
finish
Killing it.
the show, there's my dog. Not the one who stole lasagna. She carries that's a good dog. Look at her. What a good dog. Goodbye.
Bye.